Guys, I just wanted to discuss this extremely messy Jimbo Fisher situation with Texas A&M. People are wondering, will they fire Jimbo? Will they pay his massive buyout? I'm going to give my thoughts, what I think happened with Texas A&M, with the whole NIL thing. They're suspending several 5-stars indefinitely that were part of that massive 2022 recruiting class. Just kind of talk about the whole situation because it is pretty remarkable. Number one, guys, Texas A&M, for better or for worse, they are stuck with Jimbo Fisher. The buyout is simply too big. I understand Texas A&M boosters. They've got a bunch of money. I get it. This year, if they want to fire Jimbo, they're paying him around $83 million. That's simply not going to happen. It's too much. Next year, it's at around $77 million. The year after that, it's $67 million. Anywhere, in my opinion, above, I would say $45 million, they're not paying. It's just too much money. I know boosters have a ton of money. So then it comes down to they're stuck with Jimbo Fisher. What do? I think this year has really opened a lot of eyes. Of course, Texas A&M right now, they are starting a young quarterback, getting him experience, a 5-star true freshman. I think the Texas A&M boosters are going to demand some type of offensive change, whether that's trying to find the next Joe Brady, whether that's having Jimbo change his philosophy. We've seen a lot with Texas A&M, kind of a prehistoric offense, an offense that really, really struggles. They don't throw the ball enough. And I think one of two things will happen. They'll have Jimbo Fisher completely change his philosophy, or the boosters will demand somebody gets brought in and really runs the offense. When it comes to the whole NIL situation, I think Texas A&M went for it. They saw that, listen, is what we're doing, giving, these 17, 18-year-old kids multi-million-dollar contracts, is that smart? Probably not. But Texas A&M looked at Alabama and their recruiting, and Georgia and their recruiting, and these other programs in their own conference, and they said, listen, if we want to have a chance to beat these teams and compete at, this level, especially now, possibly with the 12-team playoff coming in, which will give you a margin for error. If we want to compete, first and foremost, we have to have the talent. Really, the only team that's been able to consistently win and win national titles without top 5 talent has been Clemson. That's the only team. Ohio State's had top 5 talent. Georgia's had top 5 talent. Alabama's had top 5 talent. Clemson is really the only one. LSU, when they won, that was a perfect situation. Getting Joe Burrow, it all came together. Jamar Chase was a 5-star. Justin Jefferson was like a 3-star, but they had a lot of talent. You need a lot of talent. So Texas A&M takes their shot, and this is the potential negative reaction from it. It's giving a bunch of young kids multi-million-dollar deals. It's just not a good environment. And now they're trying to nip all these behavior issues in the butt, because when you give young, immature kids a lot of money, this is what tends to happen. So guys, my whole opinion on the Texas A&M situation, they're stuck with Jimbo Fisher. They've got a young quarterback. They're going to let him play the rest of the year, a true freshman, try and build momentum towards next year. But this idea that they're going to pay this buyout because the A&M boosters have a ton of money, they might have a ton of money, but they're like, this whole system with Texas A&M getting all these 5-stars through NIL, this was done with Jimbo. So it's like he's part of A&M. It's not like Jimbo is not recruiting well or anything like that. This is all going, it's like he is the program. So they're not going to fire him. And guys, remember, I warned people before the season when people were ranking Texas A&M inside their top 6, inside their top 7, and saying, oh, they had the greatest recruiting class in history. I said, listen, all of these kids are true freshmen. They're not going to make a major impact, in their many of them, even if you're a 5-star, if you're a true freshman, you're not going to make a massive impact in college football. You have to develop more. It's just the way it is, and it's how it always works. The 5-star true freshmen that do make impacts, are the outliers. They're not the norm. So I think the expectations for Texas A&M were a little too high. And then obviously losing games to Appalachian State, that just can't happen. But when it comes to, personally, I think A&M probably went a little bit too far into the NIL. You don't need to be paying, multi-million dollars for 5 different 5-star defensive linemen. I think it was a little bit of an overkill, and it's just going to create animosity within the locker room and things like that. You're looking at programs like Ohio State, Alabama, kind of pulling back. Obviously, when it comes to paying these kids, you do have to have an incentive for them. You have to give them their NIL deals. But you don't want to go balls to the wall right away and get a kid that just committed to you who's not even with your program yet. You're not going to want to commit a multi-million-dollar contract to him. That's where the immaturity issues come, and you're seeing other programs like, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, even Georgia. We haven't heard a ton about their NIL situation. I'm sure they've all got NIL situations, but there's a difference between what Texas A&M did and what Georgia did. And I think the big issue now for Texas A&M, how easy it is to transfer with the transfer portal. Is Texas A&M looking at a mass exodus via the portal of their 2022 class, which was the greatest recruiting class in history, according to the overall numbers and the overall 8 total 5-stars. So guys, that's just my analysis on what A&M is going to do, what I think they're going to do. Jimbo Fisher is not getting fired for 2 main reasons. Number one, his buyout is ridiculous, and I know you can say they're going to pay it. They're not going to pay it. They're not paying $86 million. There's no way. Number two, it's like Jimbo Fisher is Texas A&M football. He went all in on the NIL. I think they're going to stick with Fisher. And one of 2 things is going to happen in the offseason. He's going to completely change his offensive philosophy, or you're going to see a new probably a younger, more innovative offensive coordinator get, brought in. And they do have young offensive talent. They've got superstar receivers. I know some of those true freshman receivers that were the 5-stars got in trouble. But the one thing that Texas A&M is not lacking, again, pending on if they face any transfers, right now they're not lacking talent on their roster. And they're going to be, as long as they keep most of those kids, it's impossible for them not to be improved next year because all those kids are going to be sophomores. They're all going to be better. They're all going to be playing more. I mean, look at Ohio State with JTT breaking out this year. He did nothing as a true freshman because these kids really need a year of development. And then most of them break out as true sophomores. So if I was a Texas A&M fan, my goal would be to, you've got a 5-star true freshman quarterback, get him reps, get him comfortable, get him a few SEC wins, make a bowl game, at least get to 7, maybe 8 wins, and go from there. But I would be shocked, not only because of the buyout, but because it's almost like Jimbo Fisher is A&M football. The reason this whole NIL crap, the multi-million-dollar contracts, the high school kids, it's all happening because Jimbo's like, we need talent to compete with these other schools. And, maybe if we're facing Ohio State or we're facing Alabama in a recruiting battle and everything is even, they can point to the players they've put in the NFL. More times than not, we're going to lose those battles, but if we can offer them more money or better NIL deals, now we start winning those battles. That's why you get the 5-stars, the 8 5-stars that were committed, in 2022. So it is an interesting situation to follow. How are all these NIL? I mean, this is crazy. This is all so brand new. In 5 years, people are going to look back and be like, wow, that's crazy that happened. How did that happen? How did things work out? Nobody knows, really. We're just in the first year of these kids being freshmen. 2022 was the first massive NIL class. And one other thing I wanted to mention, we're seeing a lot of these 5-star quarterbacks reclassifying, which I am really against. I mean, I understand we saw it with Quinn Ewers. We're seeing it with a 2025 5-star QB who's reclassifying to 2024 and committing to LSU. in my opinion, it is so important to get the full 4 years of development as a high schooler. The $1 million NIL deal can wait. Don't do anything that will F up your development if you are a 5-star quarterback. You will get your money. Don't F with your development. That's what I would say to young kids, especially all these quarterbacks who want to reclassify a year early and skip their senior year of high school so they can get the $2 or $3 million NIL deal a little bit earlier. That's a growing trend right now. And I know Ohio State has the #1 overall player, perfect 1,000 rating. Kid's name is Dylan Raiola, committed in 2024, and I don't think he is reclassifying. Of course, the Quinn Ewers situation was so crazy with Ohio State. Ohio State actually had it set up to where Ewers would be a true freshman this year at Ohio State, because originally Ewers was in the 2022 class, and then the thought was C.J. Stroud goes to the NFL after this season. Quinn Ewers, after the true freshman season, takes over in his second year at Ohio State. That was always the thought. But Ewers wanted the money earlier. He couldn't make money as a high school player in the state of Texas. He comes to Ohio State. Originally, the thing is with Quinn Ewers, it's so interesting. He committed to Ohio State because of Ryan Day. It really, NIL, when Quinn Ewers decommitted from Texas and then committed to Ohio State, NIL really wasn't that big. Now, move forward about 5 or 6 months, NIL becomes a bigger thing. If NIL was not in the picture at all, I don't think Ewers is a Texas Longhorn. I think he's still at Ohio State. But because of the whole NIL thing, he ends up, reclassifying. I'm sure why would Ryan Day want him to reclassify? That's the last thing you would want when you're setting up your quarterback room and you have C.J. Stroud leaving and you have Ewers already with a year in the program. That's the exact situation. You're not going to want Ewers starting as a true freshman. If Ewers stays in the 2022 class, he's starting as either a redshirt freshman or a true sophomore after C.J. Stroud leaves this year. But he reclassifies. He's not going to beat out C.J. Stroud, who was already, as not even a true freshman. I mean, Quinn Ewers should have been a senior in high school. And he reclassifies, and you're not going to beat out C.J. Stroud. And then Stroud, he's been with Ohio State. He knows the playbook. He takes over. And then in the offseason, the writing is kind of on the wall. You're just going to be sitting behind Stroud again. He wants to play. He got homesick, whatever. He goes back home. But that's kind of just the interesting dynamics of NIL. So, guys, I don't know how I got on that Ohio State thing there. But overall, guys, when it comes to Jimbo Fisher, I think there's 0% chance they fire him and pay that buyout, or even try something like Auburn did. Of course, we saw Auburn's boosters try and create some sort of clause that would enable them to fire the coach in the offseason without the buyout, without having to pay the buyout, firing a coach with clause, even if A&M could do that. Actually, I read somewhere that A&M can't do that because apparently A&M got hit with recruiting violations and they gave Jimbo another raise or something. So I'm not even sure they can try and do that when it comes to a potential buyout. But the buyout to me is just simply too big. They're in it with Jimbo. I think they try and change the offensive scheme. They're going to be better next year as long as they don't face a mass exodus in the transfer portal, just because all those kids are going to be sophomores. And that's where I stand currently with Texas A&M. I think they went too far into the NIL. I understand you need to get 5 stars to beat Alabama. Trust me, I get it. You do. 100%. If you want to win a national title, you need to be one of the most talented rosters in college football. A&M boosters knew it. That's why they went balls to the wall. But you're creating, so much animosity, so many issues with 17-year-old kids making, one of them's making $3 million, the other's making $1 million. They're spending the money on, 6-figure cars. It's just, the whole thing is a mess. So, guys, we'll see what happens with A&M. I just wanted to touch on that whole situation, but that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.